Krell sat in the cold metal chair, his 3 remaining limbs arranged awkwardly on the table before him. The recording device blinked its red light at him. Waiting. The human technician had set it up and left without a word. That was fine. Krell preferred silence these days. He looked at his reflection in the dark screen mounted on the wall. Once, he had been a proud Drexian warrior with 6 strong limbs and scales that gleamed like polished stone. Now, he was something else, something broken. The war had taken 3 of his limbs, but it had taken much more than that. "Begin when you are ready," the voice said through the speaker. It was translated into his language. But Krell knew a human was listening somewhere. He took a breath and started talking. "My name is Krell. I was a soldier in the Drexian Imperial Army, 3rd Battalion, Assault Division. 15 years ago, I fought in the war against humanity. I am here to tell you what happened. Not the official reports, not the propaganda. The truth." The words felt heavy in his mouth. "It started on a planet called Terminus 9, a human colony world on the edge of their territory. Our commanders told us it would be easy. They said humans were weak, soft. They had only been in space for a few hundred years. We Drexians had been conquering worlds for 10,000 years. This was supposed to be simple." Krell's middle limb twitched, a nervous habit he had developed after the war. "We arrived with 5,000 soldiers. The humans had maybe 800 defenders. We had plasma cannons and shield generators. They had old kinetic weapons and some mining equipment. Our generals laughed. They gave us 3 hours to take the colony. We thought we would need one." He paused, remembering. "The assault began at dawn. Our dropships landed in the main plaza. The colony was built around an old mining operation, with buildings spread out in neat rows. It looked peaceful, quiet. We thought they had already run away." Krell's voice dropped lower. "Then the shooting started. They hit us from everywhere. Windows, rooftops, underground. The humans did not line up and fight like proper soldiers. They hid. They ambushed. They shot and ran away before we could return fire. Our shields protected us from most of their bullets, but they did not seem to care. They just kept shooting. I saw their commander that first day. His name was Tay. He was standing on top of a building, completely exposed, directing his soldiers with hand signals. My squad leader targeted him with a plasma rifle. The shot should have killed him instantly, but Tay saw it coming somehow. He dropped through a hole in the roof just as the plasma bolt hit where he had been standing. Krell made a sound that was almost a laugh, but not quite. We thought he was lucky. We did not understand yet. By midday, we had pushed into the colony center. We lost 30 soldiers. That was more than expected, but acceptable. Our commanders ordered us to secure the main buildings and flush out the remaining humans. We spread out through the streets. That is when the bombs started. They were not military explosives. They were improvised, made from mining charges and fertilizer and chemicals from the colony's factories. The humans had buried them in the streets, hidden them in buildings, attached them to doors and walls and vehicles. Everywhere we went, something exploded. I lost my first limb that day. A pressure mine took it off below the joint. I remember lying on the ground, watching my purple blood pool on the human concrete, thinking this was not supposed to happen. We were the superior force. We had better weapons, better armor, better training, but the humans did not care about any of that. Lieutenant Hua led the defense of the eastern sector. She was small, even for a human, but she commanded her fighters like she was born for it. We tried to surround her position 3 times. Each time, she pulled her people back before we could close the trap. Then she would hit us from a different angle. By sunset, we had not taken the colony. Our commanders were angry. They sent in another 1,000 soldiers and bombardment drones. We pounded the human positions with plasma fire. We destroyed whole buildings. The humans retreated into the tunnels beneath the colony. Our generals smiled then. They thought they had won. The humans were trapped underground with limited supplies. We controlled the surface. All we had to do was wait for them to starve or surrender. Krell's remaining limbs clenched into fists. We did not know what those tunnels were. The colony was built on an old mining complex. Hundreds of kilometers of tunnels and shafts and chambers dug deep into the planet's crust. The humans knew every centimeter of those tunnels. We knew nothing. That first night, they came up through access shafts we did not even know existed. They killed sentries. They sabotaged our equipment. They stole our supplies and disappeared back underground like ghosts. In the morning, we found one of our supply depots had been emptied. The humans had taken everything. Weapons, medicine, food, even our communication devices. They left a message written on the wall in our language. It said, "Thank you for the supplies. See you tonight." That was when I first felt real fear. Not fear of death. Directions are not afraid to die in battle. This was different. This was the fear of fighting an enemy that did not follow any rules we understood, an enemy that treated war like a game they intended to win no matter what it cost. Commander Tay broadcast a message to us that night. His translator was broken, so his voice sounded strange, but we understood his words. He said, "You came to our home. You attacked our families. You thought we would surrender because you are stronger. But you made a mistake. You forgot that humans do not surrender. We adapt, we learn, we overcome, and we never, ever give up." Krell stopped talking. His voice had grown hoarse. The recording device continued blinking, waiting for more. That was the first day. He finally said. The first day of 3 months. 3 months. That changed everything I believed about war. About strength. About what it means to be a soldier. He looked at the red light on the recording device. Shall I continue? Krell shifted his weight in the chair, trying to find a comfortable position that no longer existed for him. The recording device waited patiently. Somewhere, a human was listening to every word. That thought still made him uncomfortable, even after 15 years of peace. "The siege," he said finally. "You want to know about the siege." He closed his eyes, but that only made the memories stronger. 3 months, 92 days, 2,208 hours. I counted every single one. We controlled the surface of Terminus 9. The humans were underground. Our generals said it was only a matter of time. They were wrong. Krell's voice carried a bitter edge now. The human called Day changed everything. Before the war, he was an engineer. He designed mining equipment. When the war started, he became something else. Something we had no defense against. Day knew those tunnels better than anyone. He had helped build some of them. He knew where the water pipes ran, where the power conduits were hidden, where the ventilation shafts connected. He turned the entire underground into a weapon. The humans would attack us at night. Always at night. They would emerge from tunnels we had sealed. They climbed out of maintenance shafts we had blocked. They crawled through pipes too small for direction soldiers to follow. They were everywhere and nowhere. Krell opened his eyes and stared at nothing. They used our own weapons against us. Every plasma rifle they stole, every piece of equipment they captured, they turned it against us. Day figured out how to override our IFF systems. That means identification, friend or foe. He made our automated defenses shoot at us. Our own guns killed our own soldiers. I remember the night they collapsed Tunnel 7. We had sent a full company down there. 200 soldiers. To clear out a human position. Day had rigged the support beams with our own demolition charges. The whole tunnel came down. All 200 soldiers were buried alive. It took us 4 days to dig them out. Only 33 survived. His voice grew quieter. The psychological warfare was worse than the physical attacks. The humans learned our communication frequencies. They would broadcast Earth music through our channels. Strange, alien sounds that made no sense to us, but filled our soldiers with dread. They played it all night, every night. No one could sleep. Sometimes they would leave devices with countdown timers in our camps. The timers would count down from 10 minutes. We would evacuate. Call in the bomb disposal units. Risk soldiers' lives to defuse these devices. And when the timer reached 0, nothing would happen. It was just a timer. There was no bomb. But we could never be sure, so we had to evacuate every single time. After 2 weeks, we started shooting the countdown devices instead of evacuating. That is when they started putting real bombs in some of them. Krell's remaining limbs trembled slightly. Then there was Sunday. She was their medic. Just a doctor. But she kept their soldiers alive long enough to keep fighting us. She stole our medical supplies during raids. She learned how to use our healing gel, our bone fixers, our blood synthesizers. She used Drexian medical technology to heal humans. We intercepted one of her transmissions once. She was teaching other human medics how to use our equipment. She said, "Their medicine is better than ours. But their biology is simpler. It is easy to adapt. Use the blue gel for burns, the green injector for broken bones, the red pack for blood loss. They built these tools for 6-limbed creatures, but we can modify them." She saved hundreds of human lives. Lives that should have been lost. Every soldier son saved came back to fight us again. I lost my second limb in week 6, a human ambush in the northern sector. They had hidden in the rubble of a building we had destroyed days earlier. When my squad passed by, they attacked from behind. I took a human bullet through my secondary limb. It shattered the bone beyond repair. Son's people probably patched up the human who shot me and sent him back into the fight. Krell paused, his breath raspy. We adapted too. We changed our patrol patterns. We swept tunnels with drones before sending in soldiers. We used chemical sensors to detect human presence. We thought we were learning. But every time we learned something new, the humans learned faster. Every tactic we developed, they had a counter for within days. It was like fighting an enemy that could read our minds. Later, I learned the truth. They were not reading our minds. They were reading our patterns. Humans are very good at finding patterns. Commander Tay organized their defense with perfect precision. He never seemed to sleep. We would hit a human position at 0300 hours, and he would be there, directing the defense. We would attack again at 1400 hours on the other side of the colony, and he would be there too. We started to think he was not human. Maybe a machine. Something that did not need rest. After we captured a human prisoner, we learned the truth. Tay did sleep. 3 hours per day. In 15-minute intervals. He had trained himself to function on almost no rest. And when he did sleep, Lieutenant Hua took over command. They never left their soldiers without leadership. Never. The prisoner also told us something else. Something that made my blood run cold. He said, "You think this is hard for us? This is easy compared to what we did to each other for thousands of years. You are just target practice." In the 8th week, we received reinforcements. 2,000 fresh soldiers. New equipment. Better intelligence. Our commanders thought this would break the human resistance. They were confident again. The humans responded by blowing up our main ammunition depot. Day had tunneled under it over the course of 2 weeks. They filled the tunnel with stolen explosives and detonated it all at once. The explosion could be seen from orbit. We lost 3 months of supplies in 3 seconds. That same night, human fighters hit 5 other positions simultaneously. They killed our communications officer. They destroyed our water purification plant. They sabotaged 3 of our transport vehicles. And they did it all within a 30-minute window. We were not fighting a resistance anymore. We were fighting a professional military force that operated with precision we could barely comprehend. And they were doing it with less than half their original numbers, using stolen equipment, while living in tunnels underground. Krell's voice was barely a whisper now. In the 10th week, I watched a human soldier die. We had wounded him badly. He was bleeding out on the tunnel floor. We could have captured him, but he had a grenade. He looked at us, made eye contact. Then he pulled the pin and took 3 of my squad members with him. That was when I finally understood. Humans do not fear death the way we do. They fear failure. They fear letting their people down. They fear losing. But death is just another tool they can use to achieve victory. The siege continued. Day after day. Week after week. We held the surface. They held the underground. And slowly, piece by piece, they were winning. Krell stopped talking and looked at his missing limbs. Then the relief force arrived. Our salvation. Or, so we thought. Krell stared at the recording device for a long moment before continuing. His voice had changed. It carried something heavier now. Something that went beyond physical wounds. Week 11. The relief force arrived from the Drexian home fleet. 47 warships, 15,000 soldiers, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Our commanders on the ground celebrated. We were saved. The siege was over. Humanity would be crushed. He made a sound that might have been a laugh once, but came out wrong. We were monitoring all communications, military channels, civilian frequencies, even emergency bands. We wanted to hear the human panic when they detected our fleet. We wanted to hear them beg for mercy. Instead, we heard silence. Complete silence. That scared us more than any threat could have. The human fleet arrived 6 hours later. We detected them on our sensors. 12 ships. Just 12. Outdated designs. Smaller tonnage. Less armor. Weaker shields. Our fleet commander sent them a message demanding immediate surrender. The humans did not respond with words. Krell's remaining limbs clenched. They responded by attacking. 12 ships against 47. It was suicide. It was insanity. It was impossible. Our fleet commander actually laughed. We all did. What could 12 ships do? The human commander was named Rock. I learned his name later when we studied the battle recordings, trying to understand what happened. Rock had been a merchant ship captain before the war. He transported mining equipment between colonies. He was not even a real military officer, but he commanded that fleet like he had been born to it. His tactical officer was Na. She was young, barely 30 standard years. She had graduated from their naval academy just 2 years before the war started. She had never seen real combat. Together, Rock and Na did something no Drexion commander would ever consider. Krell's voice dropped to almost a whisper. They charged. No fancy maneuvers, no tactical withdrawals. They accelerated their 12 ships directly into the center of our formation at maximum speed. Our fleet commander was so surprised, he hesitated for almost 10 seconds before giving the order to fire. Those 10 seconds changed everything. The humans were firing everything they had. Missiles, railguns, laser batteries, everything. But their weapons barely scratched our shields. Our return fire was devastating. We crippled 3 human ships in the first minute, destroyed 2 more in the second minute. It looked like the battle would be over in 5 minutes. Then Rock's flagship rammed our carrier. Krell's voice cracked slightly. He did not try to ram it. He did not fail to avoid it. He deliberately, intentionally, piloted his ship directly into ours at full combat speed. His ship's reactor went critical on impact. The explosion destroyed the carrier and 4 nearby cruisers. Rock died instantly. 3,000 Drexian sailors died with him. We were in shock. No one rams capital ships. It is not done. It is wasteful. It is irrational. Ships are valuable. Trained crews are valuable. You do not throw them away like ammunition. But humans do. Humans absolutely do. With Rock dead, Na took command of the remaining human ships. She was on a destroyer that had lost its weapons systems. She was barely limping along. Our fleet commander targeted her ship personally. He wanted to end this madness. Na broadcast a message to all human ships. We intercepted it. She said, "Execute Victory Protocol 7. All ships commit. This ends now. Victory Protocol 7. We learned what that meant. Every damaged human ship immediately changed course. They all pointed at Drexian vessels and accelerated. They were all going to ram us, every single one. Krell's breathing had become labored. Na did the calculations. She knew exactly how many ships she needed to sacrifice to create enough chaos for reinforcements to arrive. She knew the human relief fleet was 12 hours away. She knew her fleet could not win conventionally, so she did not try to win conventionally. 3 more human ships rammed Drexian vessels. 2 hit cruisers. 1 hit a destroyer. The explosions were enormous. We lost 8 more ships. Our formation broke apart. Our fleet commander was screaming orders, trying to restore discipline. The remaining human ships continued fighting. They were all damaged. All running on emergency power. All leaking atmosphere. But they kept shooting. Kept maneuvering. Kept fighting. Quote, Na's destroyer was hit by a plasma torpedo. It tore through her ship's port side. We saw the explosion. We saw the atmosphere venting. We knew she was dead. Action. We saw the dead, but her ship kept fighting. For another 7 minutes, that destroyer fired its last working railgun at our fleet. Someone was still alive on that ship. Someone was still fighting. Later we learned it was Na. She had survived in a sealed compartment. She manually aimed and fired that railgun 17 times before her ship finally lost all power. She killed 3 more Drexian ships, a destroyer and 2 frigates, all by herself, from a dying ship, with manual controls. Krell stopped talking. He was shaking now. The battle lasted 43 minutes. When it was over, we had lost 19 ships, almost half our fleet. The humans had lost all 12 of their ships, every single one, but they had won. How did they win? Because 12 hours later, while we were still recovering from the shock, while we were still rescuing survivors from damaged vessels, while we were still trying to understand what had happened, the human reinforcement fleet arrived. This time, they had 80 ships, fresh crews, full ammunition, and they were angry. We detected them and immediately began retreat calculations. Our fleet commander tried to reorganize for defense, but our formation was broken. Our ships were damaged. Our crews were traumatized. The human reinforcements did not give us time to recover. They attacked immediately. No demands for surrender. No warning shots. They came in firing everything they had. Our fleet commander gave the order to retreat. We ran. The proud Drexian Imperial Navy retreated from a human force, something we had never done in 10,000 years of warfare. We ran, and the humans chased us all the way out of the system. On the ground, we watched our salvation disappear into the darkness of space. We were alone again. The humans in the tunnels knew what had happened. We heard them celebrating, singing, cheering. That night, Commander Tay broadcast another message to us. He said, "Your fleet is gone. Ours is coming. You can surrender now with honor. Or you can die in these tunnels. Choose quickly." Quote, Krell looked directly at the recording device. Some of us wanted to surrender. I was one of them. But our commander refused. He said we would fight to the last soldier. He said the Drexian Empire did not surrender to inferior species, so we kept fighting. And the humans kept killing us. Day by day. Night by night. They were not even angry anymore. They were just efficient. Professional. They had won, and now they were just cleaning up. 3 weeks later, the human reinforcement fleet arrived in orbit. They gave us one final chance to surrender. Our commander refused again. So they bombarded our positions from space for 6 hours straight. Then their ground forces landed. I surrendered that day. I walked out of our bunker with my remaining limbs raised. I expected them to shoot me. They did not. They gave me medical treatment. They gave me food. They processed me as a prisoner of war according to their Geneva Conventions. Rules for war. Humans have rules for war. Krell's voice was bitter now. Later, I asked a human guard about Rock and Na, about why they had sacrificed themselves. He looked at me like I had asked something obvious. He said, "Because if we had not, you would have landed more troops. More people would have died. Both human and Drexian. Rock and Na saved lives by giving theirs. That is what soldiers do." I did not understand then. I am not sure I understand now. Krell took a long pause before continuing. The recording device continued, its patient blinking. The memories he was about to share were the ones that still woke him up at night. After Terminus 9 fell, I was sent back to the Drexion homeworld. They needed experienced soldiers for defense. The war had turned. Humanity was no longer defending. They were attacking. And they were winning. He shifted uncomfortably. At the processing center, I met other veterans. Soldiers from different battles, different planets, different units. We all had the same look in our eyes, the same understanding. We had all fought humans. We had all learned the same terrible truth. There was a soldier named Kreth. He had fought at the Battle of Meridian Station. He told me about a human pilot called Wu. Wu had been flying a fighter craft for 3 days straight. No sleep. No rest. Just combat stimulants and determination. Wu destroyed 17 Drexion fighters during those 3 days. 17. Our best pilots averaged 2 kills per combat mission. Wu kept flying until his body started shutting down. His squadron commander ordered him to land. When Wu's fighter touched down, he sent a final message. Mission complete. All targets destroyed. Then, his heart stopped. He died. Sitting in his cockpit, Krell's voice was hollow. The humans gave him their highest military honor. They named a cruiser after him. Kreth saw that cruiser in battle later. The crew fought like demons, like they had something to prove, like they were carrying Wu's spirit with them. Another veteran told me about He. She was a human diplomat. During the war, she negotiated peace treaties with some of our colony governors. She would arrive on a colony, speak beautifully about peace and cooperation, convince our governors to agree to terms. Very professional, very polite. What we did not know was that He was also coordinating military strikes. While she was negotiating in the governor's palace, she was using her diplomatic access to gather intelligence. Security layouts, troop deployments, defense weaknesses. She would send everything to human military commanders. When the negotiations ended, human forces would attack within hours. They would hit exactly where our defenses were weakest. He knew where those weak points were, because she had been in our command centers. She had seen everything. 3 colonies fell because of He's intelligence. Thousands of soldiers died. When we finally figured out what she was doing, we tried to arrest her. She was already gone. She left a note, thanking the governors for their hospitality and cooperation. Krell's remaining limbs trembled. But the story that haunts me most is Commander Jin. I never met Jin. I only heard about what happened. But every Drexion soldier knows the story. It is used as an example in our military academies now. An example of what humans are capable of. Jin was captured during the Battle of Outpost 17. Our interrogators were the best in the Empire. They had been breaking prisoners for decades. They thought Jin would be easy. A human commander would have valuable information. Troop movements, supply lines, attack plans. They were confident. Jin said nothing. For 3 days, our interrogators used every technique they knew. Physical pain, psychological manipulation, sleep deprivation, sensory overload. Nothing worked. Jin just smiled and said the same phrase over and over. Name, rank, serial number. On the 4th day, Jin started talking. Gave detailed information about human troop positions, fleet movements, supply routes. Everything. Our interrogators thought they had finally broken through. They sent the information to our commanders immediately. Our commanders used Jin's information to plan a major offensive. They sent 3 full army groups, 20,000 soldiers, to intercept what Jin said was a lightly defended human supply convoy. It was supposed to be an easy victory, a chance to capture supplies and prisoners. Krell's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. It was a trap. There was no supply convoy. Jin had lied about everything. The human military had been waiting. They had set up the perfect ambush. All 3 army groups walked directly into it. The battle lasted 4 hours. We lost 18,000 soldiers. 2,000 more were captured. Only a few hundred escaped. It was the single worst defeat in Drexion military history, all because of information from 1 human prisoner. When our interrogators confronted Jin about the deception, Jin just smiled again, said, "Pain is temporary. Victory is forever. You tortured me for 4 days. I helped kill 18,000 of your soldiers. I would say I won this exchange. They executed Jin the next day. A firing squad. Jin refused a blindfold. Refused to kneel. Stood there looking at the soldiers with that same smile. The last words Jin spoke were, "Tell your families I am sorry. Tell your children this war did not have to happen. Tell your leaders they should have left us alone." Krell had to stop. The memories were too heavy. After I heard that story, I understood something. Humans do not just fight with weapons and tactics. They fight with their minds, their will, their absolute refusal to accept defeat. Jin could have stayed quiet and revealed nothing. Instead, Jin turned captivity into a weapon, turned torture into an opportunity. Even in the worst circumstances, Jin found a way to win. There were other stories. So many stories. A medic who kept treating wounded soldiers even after losing both arms. An engineer who sabotaged a Drexion weapons factory from the inside, living among us for months before detonating explosives that destroyed a year's worth of production. A communications officer who hacked our military network and broadcast false orders that caused 2 Drexion fleets to fire on each other. Every veteran had stories. Every soldier had seen something that defied logic. Something that should have been impossible. But humans made it possible through sheer determination. I started having nightmares. I would dream about Tay appearing in my quarters, about Day collapsing the ceiling above my bed, about Sun keeping human soldiers alive just to fight me again, about Rock's ship ramming into me, about Jin smiling while my world burned. The military psychologists said I had trauma. They gave me medications, therapy sessions. Nothing helped. How could it? The trauma was not from what happened to me. The trauma was from understanding what humans were. Krell looked at his missing limbs again. Other species fight wars to gain territory. Resources. Power. Humans fight wars to solve problems. They study warfare like science. They analyze every battle, every defeat, every mistake. They write everything down. They teach it to their children. A human historian named Quan visited the prison camp where I was held. She was writing a book about the war. She interviewed dozens of Drexion prisoners. She was kind, patient, professional. She never gloated about human victory. She just wanted to understand what happened. I asked her why humans were so good at war. Why they never gave up. Why they were willing to sacrifice so much for victory. Krell's voice cracked. Quan looked at me with something like pity. She said, "We have been fighting ourselves for 10,000 years. Every human war, every human conflict. We learned something. We made mistakes and wrote them down so we would not make them again. We developed strategies and shared them. We built weapons and improved them. Fighting you was not special. It was just practice. Practice. 10,000 years of human history. Thousands of wars. Millions of battles. All practice. The war against the Drexion Empire was just another training exercise for them. That was when I truly understood. We never had a chance. From the moment we attacked that first human colony, we were doomed. Because we were fighting a species that had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war against themselves. And if they could do that to each other, what chance did we ever have? The recording device blinked steadily. Krell sat in silence, lost in memories that would never fade. Krell looked at the recording device one last time. This was the end of his testimony. The final part, the part that explained why he was sitting here, why he had agreed to this interview, why any of it mattered. The war ended 2 years after it started. Not because we could not fight anymore. We had soldiers. We had weapons. We had ships. The war ended because our analysts ran the calculations and showed us the truth. He paused, letting the weight of that statement settle. To completely defeat humanity, we would need to exterminate them. Every colony. Every ship. Every human in existence. Anything less, and they would rebuild. They would adapt. They would come back stronger. Our analysts showed us projections. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. In every scenario, humanity recovered and came back. And each time, they were more dangerous. But extermination would require resources we did not have. It would take decades. It would drain our economy. It would weaken us against other threats. And most importantly, it would turn every other species in the galaxy against us. No one wants to live next to a species willing to commit genocide. Krell's voice was steady now, calm in a way it had not been before. So we sued for peace. Not because we wanted peace. Because continuing the war would destroy us even if we won. The humans accepted immediately. They had reasonable terms. War crime tribunals for both sides. Reparations for damaged colonies. Clear borders. Trade agreements. They were surprisingly fair about it. Our politicians took credit for negotiating a favorable peace. Our generals wrote reports about how we had achieved strategic objectives. Our media told our people we had won a glorious victory. But those of us who fought knew the truth. We lost. Completely and totally. The humans simply chose not to rub our faces in it. That was 15 years ago. I have spent those years trying to understand. Trying to learn. Trying to figure out what makes humans so different. So dangerous. I think I finally know. Krell leaned forward slightly. It is not their weapons. Other species have better technology. It is not their numbers. Other species have larger populations. It is not even their willingness to sacrifice. Other species have fanatics and zealots. What makes humans dangerous is that they learn from everything, especially from failure. Other species see defeat as shameful, something to forget and move past. Humans see defeat as data. They study their losses more carefully than their victories. They write detailed reports about every mistake. They teach those mistakes in their military academies. After the war ended, I was released from the prison camp. I could have gone home. Instead, I asked to stay on a human world, to study, to understand. They let me. They even gave me access to their military history archives. Do you know what I found? His voice carried a mix of awe and fear. Everything. Every battle they ever fought. Every war they ever lost. Thousands of years of defeats and victories. All documented in excruciating detail. They do not hide their failures. They study them. They analyze them. They share them freely. I read about their wars against each other. Human against human. The strategies they developed. The weapons they created. The tactics they refined. They spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing each other. And when we attacked them, they simply applied those lessons to us. There is a human saying, "Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it." Humans never forget their history. They never repeat their mistakes. Or if they do, they learn from repeating them. Krell's remaining limbs gestured at the air. Do you know what humans have done in the 15 years since the war ended? They doubled their naval capacity, built 300 new warships, established colonies in 42 new systems. Their population has increased by 8 billion. Their economy has grown by 60%. Meanwhile, the Drexian Empire has recovered slowly. We rebuilt our fleet to 70% of pre-war levels. We established colonies in 5 new systems. Our population grew by 1 billion. Our economy is still struggling. The humans are growing 3 times faster than we are, and they are using the war against us as a teaching tool. Their military academies now have courses called the Drexian Conflict. They teach their officers what worked and what did not work. They study our tactics and develop counters. They are already preparing for the next war, even though they have no plans to start one. Quan published her book last year. I read it. She called the war a minor conflict. Minor. 2 years of fighting. Hundreds of thousands dead. Dozens of worlds affected. Minor. She was right. For humans, it was minor. They barely mobilized their full military. They never used their most powerful weapons. They treated the entire war as a limited engagement. They could have done much worse to us. They chose not to. Krell's voice grew somber. That is what I am here to tell you. That is why I agreed to this interview. Not for forgiveness. I do not deserve forgiveness. Not to apologize. Words cannot undo what happened. I am here to warn the galaxy. Humanity is the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Not because they are cruel. They are remarkably kind to prisoners and civilians. Not because they are aggressive. They prefer peace and trade to war. They are dangerous because they are better at war than anyone else, and they keep getting better. Every conflict makes them stronger. Every defeat teaches them something new. Every victory shows them what works. They are always learning, always adapting, always improving. Other species see war as a test of strength. Humans see war as a problem that can be solved. And they are very, very good at solving problems. Krell looked directly at the recording device, his eyes intense. I have heard rumors. The Zeltron Collective is considering expanding into human territory. The Carvian Union is building up military forces near human borders. Some species still think humans are weak, soft, easy targets. They are wrong. So incredibly wrong. I have seen what humans do when pushed. I watched them turn a losing siege into a victory. I watched them sacrifice ships and crews to destroy a superior fleet. I watched their commanders turn pain into tactics and failure into weapons. I watched them fight with everything they had, and then find more to give. And the most terrifying part? They were not even trying their hardest. They were using old equipment, outdated ships, minimal forces. They won a war against us, while barely trying. What happens when they do try? What happens when they mobilize their full strength? Krell's voice dropped to a whisper. I saw Commander Tay again, 5 years after the war ended. He was teaching at their military academy. He invited me to give a guest lecture about Drexian tactics. I asked him if he ever thought we would win at Terminus 9. He said no. He said from the moment we landed, he knew we would lose eventually. The siege was not about winning. It was about buying time, about learning our tactics, about training his soldiers, about preparing for the larger war. Even when they were losing, they were planning how to win. That is what humans do. They play games within games. They see 10 steps ahead. They turn every situation to their advantage. Krell sat back in his chair. So this is my warning to any species listening. To any government considering conflict with humanity. To any military planning aggression. Do not do it. It is not worth it. You will not win. Even if you win battles, you will lose the war. Because humans do not lose wars. They just delay their victory until they figure out how to win. We thought we were teaching them a lesson when we invaded Terminus 9. We thought we would show them their place in the galaxy. We were wrong. They were teaching us what happens when you attack humanity. Teaching us that they are not prey. They are not weak. They are not easy targets. They were teaching us that humanity is the species you leave alone. The species you trade with, make friends with, cooperate with. Because the alternative is facing them in war. And no one wants that. Krell looked at his missing limbs one last time. I lost 3 limbs in the war. But that is not what I really lost. I lost my confidence, my certainty, my belief that the Drexion Empire was the strongest military force in the galaxy. I learned that we are not. We never were. We just had not met humanity yet. That is my testimony. That is my warning. That is the lesson I learned from fighting humans. He reached forward and pressed the button to stop the recording. Learn from my mistakes. Do not fight humanity. You will lose. And even if you win, you will still lose. Because they will learn from the experience and come back stronger. That is what humans do. They always come back stronger. The red light on the recording device blinked off. Krell sat in silence for a moment, then slowly stood and walked toward the door. Through the window, he could see a human transport ship lifting off from the spaceport, heading toward a new colony beyond charted space. Humanity was still growing, still expanding, still learning, and the galaxy would have to learn to live with that. Krell walked out of the archive facility, a warning delivered, a lesson shared. Behind him, the recording device held his story, his testimony, his warning to the galaxy. Some would listen, some would not. History would teach them all eventually. It always did.